Looking at the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen a massive push in digitalization. Many experts speak of a digital transformation, which has now been pushed even further due to the great advancements in artificial intelligence. Considering this, what have been the main challenges in your own professional context?
Really the individual and personal contact to students in teaching and also to direct colleagues, as well as networking among colleagues from other universities. Conferences that you would usually go to were no longer face to face, so everything was digital, very, I would say, distanced. And so I really miss the personal contact. Yeah.
Looking back, what was one of the most innovative solutions you came across?
So two colleagues of mine, one here at the KIT and one at the Pedagogical Institution of Karlsruhe, they created complete online learning settings for their courses in blended learning formats, basically flipped classroom designs. And one of them, he's his historian. He created this environment for students to really engage with topics on, I would say, a next level, and caught the attention of students by doing so. And I think it was a huge challenge and a lot of work that was put into it. But making videos of his courses, creating interactive with H5P formats, with tests, quizzes. Yeah, and I think in a way also doing this, that the teacher students were able to transfer this to their future teaching. So it wasn't just that he made a new format from his teaching to the students, but he always had in mind that in the end, teachers would need to adapt this to their formats in school later on. So I think that really impressed me. Yeah.
What do you find important to consider when integrating educational technologies in teacher education courses?
So I'm part of a project here that's called DigiMint, and it's a project of various institutions. And we are developing digital formats for courses tailored to enhancing digital competencies for the digital world, I would say, because it was not just a general digital competency course or general usage of digital technologies, but it was subject specific. And so teaching students specific to the subject that they would soon be teaching in school really helped develop these skills.
On an institutional level, what kind of general infrastructure or strategies were provided by your university?
So we started using online whiteboards for collaboration, so Miro board or something like that. And we started really using this for a longer time. So you can see how projects develop over time by using this online whiteboard, which before that we had never, none of us had ever worked with that before. And we did a workshop on how to use these online whiteboards. And I think that's also a tool that we will continue using in the future. And a lot of it is bottom up. But at the same time, there was a lot of institutional support. So we have the Zentrum für Mediales Lernen here at the KIT, and they pushed digital transformation. They offered a lot of support. I'm not sure how well it was received. That's the other side. So offering support on the one hand and making this available and sending an email, hey, we have this format, and if you need help, please contact us. But on the other side, there was really almost no time to partake in any of these formats. And I think really the time pressure made it almost impossible to really learn something and then use it. It was mostly you're using it and you're trying something, and at the same time you're like, okay, maybe I can look at what someone else is doing, or I could visit this course, but there really was almost no time for that. And at the same time, we started having a lot of hybrid formats. So in our round of colleagues in my working area, we almost, even today, we don't really have just face-to-face meetings. It's always possible to also be in the meeting in a digital format, which I think before COVID would just not have been thinkable. We created a kind of a colloquium, like a research exchange among colleagues here, and this is also in a hybrid format. So that also enables teachers or people from, so stakeholders from teacher institutions of different phases of the teaching in Germany to partake in it without having to come to our institution or to our university.
According to you, how do you think can virtual and physical settings be connected more successfully in teacher education?
I think here we need to differentiate between the actual teaching of students and the lots of other work that I do. So I'm mainly involved in research, and maybe I'll start with research. So I think for international cooperation and future projects within all disciplines, but this can be for teacher education as well. I think it's a huge advantage that we now have this opportunity and this acceptance of hybrid formats. I mean, we had that opportunity before. I think the acceptance just wasn't there. And now it's super easy to ask that person to just give his or her presentation in a digital format, and we are sitting there face to face. And so I think that kind of this fear of the situation, so the attitude has changed for a lot of people. And in this research environment, I think it's a huge advantage that we have. And I think it will definitely change how we work globally in this educational field also in the next years. Now, on the student side, I think it's not quite that easy. And I think also from a social and psychological perspective, I think students need to be in contact and need to be in face-to-face teaching as well. What I do see is potential, again, here for collaboration across institutes. So, for example, we're currently creating or working on a seminar where we're working with 2 universities, and the idea is to have some of the teaching in Karlsruhe and then other teaching in Freiburg, but the students are there, and then the other course would then be in a hybrid format. At the same time, we have, and I didn't mention this before, we have a lot of technical difficulties when implementing these hybrid formats. And so every single time, it's always kind of, it feels like a roulette kind of that, okay, so we hope it works, and I have a colleague here who is very engaged and not just motivated, but capable of implementing this. And I have to say, I would not want to be responsible for doing this on my own. So I'm always dependent on the technical support of someone else, be it my colleague or students who are helping me doing this, but setting up a completely working and hybrid environment in which everyone can be heard in the room and can be seen and can actively participate. I think that's a challenge that the infrastructure that we have so far makes it a bit difficult.
Some teacher educators are still critical of digitalization. What would you like to tell them?
And what I do tell them is that I think that when you're in education, change is inevitable. And be it digital transformation or the hopefully transformation to a digital culture, I think that is going on. And you can either push back and not be part of it, or you can step up and kind of find your way with that. And so I think I wouldn't want to convince anyone you have to use this is the only way to do it, because I don't believe that's true, and I don't think we need digital formats in every teaching environment. And at the same time, I think that they will have to step up at some point, and we will lose some of the people, not lose, but I think some people will just not do it. And I mean, in that's also part of education and part of sciences, that you have the freedom to choose how you teach and how you learn and what research you do. And I think that's good that we have that. And I think it's good that we also have critical voices looking at digital transformation. So I don't think it's like everyone has to do that right now. But it's more kind of like, okay, you can push back, but it's inevitable.
Universities in particular are highly complex systems that need a long time to change and adapt in terms of teaching, research, and administration. If you think about 5 years from now, what do you think is most important to successfully support the digital transformation in teacher education?
I think 5 years is a difficult time frame to grasp, especially for institutions such as universities. I think what we need is a change of attitude towards a digital culture. So an acceptance of that digital transformation is not something that we kind of tick off in a box. It's not something that we can finish. And that, so I think it's more having an acceptance for a digital culture, an open environment in which we continue learning, in which we as teachers who are preparing future teachers are open to continuing to learn. I think standardization would really help. At the same time, it's difficult to say what the standard needs to be, because I would not say we need to prepare students for the use of specific tools. I don't think that that will be helpful, because these tools will change and it's so dynamic. I mean, if we look at artificial intelligence and what that has done in the past year, I think it's more, I hope that the openness and acceptance of a digital culture and change of mindset will be more consistent in the entire institution on all levels of the university as an institution. So, and one other aspect to add to that, I think that it needs to be participative. So I think that this cannot be a top-down situation where we have, okay, so now we are a digital university. I think that people who are critical, people who are afraid need to be taken seriously and need to have the opportunity of participating in this process. And the same goes in schools. So I think one of the main issues in schools is that through the COVID-19 pandemic, schools kind of had to change, and all of a sudden teachers were kind of like prisoners of digitization. And so they had to use it, and then they went back to normal face-to-face teaching. And some of the teachers, they were like, oh, finally, I don't have to deal with this anymore. And that's so sad that we missed the opportunity to get everyone kind of on board on at least a minimal level. And I think, and we did a study on this with teachers over 2 years, and we interviewed the same teachers year after year after year, kind of looking at their acceptance, their attitude, and how they were dealing with digital tools. And we saw that they didn't, which is very human, didn't always remember what they had said 2 years earlier, obviously, which had become part of their normal teaching, which 2 years before would never have happened. Accepting Moodle as a learning platform and sending homework there, communicating with students via Messenger or with their colleagues, having hybrid formats and things like that had become normal. And at the same time, teachers were saying, no, I'm not digital anymore. But they just don't realize it in that way. So it's more of a question of what does digital transformation mean, and everything. I think what we need in Germany, and this is both on an institutional as well as on university institution as well as school institutional level, is a sustainable approach, which means we need more resources to implement everything that our teacher students are learning, for example. In the end, it's a question of money. It's also time. Time is a huge question mark with in-service teachers. They just don't have the time to continue adapting to this new format and that new format. But it's a question of money. And so I think that in order to reach this digital culture and have a constant openness for digital transformation, there also needs to be an openness to invest in teacher education, invest in software and in hardware, and we need to give time to people to support teachers in this digital transformation, because they can't do it on their own, and neither can we. We need support as well.